Hello and Minglaba. Welcome to MI Radio's Myanmar Today. I'm Henry Zin. New COVID-19 cases detected in Myanmar from overseas returnees. Impacts of the global pandemic on garment sector here in Myanmar. And a story coverage on Art House to organize more online exhibitions, and they are to be a flexible trend. All these reports coming up later on Myanmar Today, but for now let's take a look at what's happening in local news. According to an official report of the Ministry of Health and Sports on Sunday, COVID-19 figure of Myanmar reached 290 after 3 more cases found who had overseas travel history in Qatar. Out of the 290 confirmed cases, 6 died, 200 have recovered, and 183 have been discharged from hospitals, according to the report. Authorities accepted 642 Myanmar migrant workers returning from Thailand at the Myawaddy Friendship Bridge No. 2 on Sunday. The returnees received permission to return from the Myanmar embassy in Thailand but had to arrange their own trip to the border. They were given medical examinations and had other necessary arrangements made by Kayin State Lutto Representative U Tan Seao, Myawaddy District Administrator U Te Sa Aung, Deputy District Administrator U Aung Chan Ye, Township Administrator U Phyo Zo Koko, the head of Myawaddy District Office for Immigration and Population, Uong Kain Sui, and other officials. A total of 32,020 Myanmar citizens have returned through this route so far, and the latest batch on Sunday was made up of 388 men and 254 women. The National Volunteer Steering Unit collaborated with the Ministry of Social Welfare, Relief and Resettlement, the Ministry of Health and Sports, and Myanmar Medical Association on Sunday and organized an online training course for volunteers assisting in close proximity in quarantine centers who have yet to attend courses. The National Volunteer Steering Unit has published the Volunteer Training Handbook for volunteers assisting in COVID-19 prevention, control and treatment procedures and responses, the amount of time they can give for the quarantine centers, the assigning tasks for close proximity and at a distance based on the given situation, arranging protective equipment, temporary accommodation, food, transport and resting spaces, and conferring certificates of honor. The first batch contained 62 volunteers in Naypyidaw Council, Magwe and Bago regions, and Chin and Kaya states. The online course also taught the volunteers disease preventive measures and how to put on a protective suit. The National Volunteer Steering Unit will continue to provide training courses for volunteers who have yet to receive training. The 6th International Day of Yoga was commemorated on an online Zoom cloud meeting and through a live broadcast on Facebook page of the Sanatan Dhamma Sayam Sevak Sang, SDSS Myanmar, on Sunday. Deputy Minister for Religious Affairs and Culture, U Ji-min, extended warm wishes to the Ambassador of India and families of the embassy's staff members. The Deputy Minister said the theme for International Day of Yoga this year was Yoga at Home and Yoga with Family, and is quite appropriate for the current period. The second part of the program then began with lighting ceremonial oil lamps, followed by recitals of religious scripts and an opening speech from the SDSS chairman. A practical demonstration of yoga was then displayed, after which Deputy Minister U Ji-min and the Ambassador of India delivered speeches, and the Vice Chairman of SDSS expressed words of gratitude. The 5 precepts and patana were also observed. A training workshop on qualitative methods in health research was opened at the Department of Medical Research, Byung Lin's Research Capacity Strengthening Training Center on Sunday. At the opening ceremony, Union Minister for Health and Sports Dr. Myan Toy said conducting research projects can not only improve the entire healthcare system's capacity and effectiveness, but also assist the nation's development. The Union Minister said the skills of the individual staff from the ministry can be improved by doing research. At the Research Capacity Strengthening Training Center, the ministry was organizing training workshops on health research for not only master's and doctoral students, but also anyone who is interested in research from the ministry. The ministry, with the aim of promoting better research culture, allocated 6,000 million kyats for research funds from 2016 to 2019 to 2020 fiscal year, and planned to grant 3,000 million kyats of research funds during 2020 to 2021 fiscal year. And that's all with the local news. Let's take a look at the first report now. Myanmar now has 290 confirmed COVID-19 cases, including 6 deaths and 200 recoveries. All the new patients were undergoing facility quarantine in Pa'an Township in Kayin State, which is part of the strict government protocol for returnees when they tested positive for the disease. 18 new patients will be transferred to Webagi Specialist Hospital in Yangon region for treatment. Pomo and Soyenina will tell us more.
Myanmar has 290 confirmed COVID-19 cases, including 6 deaths and 200 recoveries. 23 COVID-19 cases detected on 19 June, and many returnees deported from Thailand brought the country larger daily increase since its first reported case in late March. All the new patients were undergoing facility quarantine in Pa'an Township in Kayin State, which is part of the strict government protocol for returning when they tested positive for the disease. The 18 new patients will be transferred to Webagi Specialist Hospital in Yangon region for the treatment. From 16 May to 19 June, 100 returnees have tested positive for the COVID-19, according to the Ministry of Health and Sport. Un Yin, regional representative from the community South Township, spoke about the importance of protecting ourselves for the second wave of the COVID-19 to Myanmar Radio through the phone interview.
We can
almost control the local transmission, but we still have overseas transmission from the returnees from the border gates. At the same time, people started to be careless about wearing masks even in the markets. It is very dangerous for those people in this time. We should take an example from the very first cases. Wearing masks has a lot of benefits in the prevention not only in COVID-19 cases but also of the respiratory related diseases like seasonal influenza. In China, the second wave has already started. We have to control strictly for the second wave as most of the returnees are tested positive. With the new normal lifestyle, people find it difficult to change immediately at first, especially in the tea shops and some restaurants. But following the rules and regulations are the best protection for ourselves.
From 31st January to 21st June, the government tested over 60,000 people for the disease, according to the data from the Ministry of Health and Sport. The government has relied mainly on quarantine, contact tracing, targeted lockdown, and restriction to contain the virus. Dr. Tan Nanso, Director of Health Knowledge Promotion Division from the Ministry of Health and Sport, spoke about the imported cases. He said,
Imported case
Currently, the imported cases from the returnees are 126, including 1 death, and the local transmissions is 160, with 5 deaths. When we look back to the very first cases, the COVID-19 has started from 23 of March, and then the local transmissions follow. The last local transmission was reported on 17 of May. Then the local transmission is almost controlled. The COVID-19 spread in the country because of the carelessness of the people. When the government announced some restrictions and some semi-lockdown township, the cases were almost tracked down.
He also said that people participation is important in this situation to prevent the second wave from the returning from the border gate.
The returnees are currently being put into quarantine at respective quarantine centers at the border gate. For them, they have to do social distancing and stop sharing items and things. As a government, we also did contact tracing for them. People have to be very careful because some cases don't show the symptoms. During these days, people have to live a new normal lifestyle with health knowledge, not only for one, but also for the people.
There are
only 4 COVID-19 laboratories, 3 in Yangon and 1 in Mandalay, have ability to test 1,000 people a day at most. Testing remains one of the more effective ways of quickly identifying a patient, ensuring prompt medical treatment and isolation to prevent its spread. But Myanmar testing capacity remains limited. 2 more laboratories are expected to open soon in Moon and Shan State. Around 2,000 returnees from Thailand have been kept in quarantine at about 350 quarantine centers across Kayong State. Yangon has the highest number of COVID-19 cases among region and state of the country, with 204 COVID-19 cases. Kayong State is the second with 25. Meanwhile, the global pandemic spread to 188 countries, killing over 467,000 people, afflicting over 8,931,000 people, according to the Worldometer Coronavirus Resource Center.
That's a report on new COVID-19 cases detected in Myanmar from overseas returnees. All right, we'll move on to the next report. Over 1.1 million workers are currently employed in garment, textile, footwear, and accessories factories in Myanmar. Additional tens of thousands indirectly work in the industry through logistics and transport services. Research commissioned by CNA Foundation in 2017 calculated that the sector could employ over 1.5 million people by 2020. Currently, 15 factories have ceased operations permanently, while 5 others stopped operating temporarily since January. Others have cut the number of workers, so many garment workers are worried that their factories will be shut down. Pyo Devidu and Soyatana have the details.
The nascent garment industry in Myanmar has grown significantly over the past 8 years from an export value of $900 million in 2012 to $2.7 billion in 2017. But the garment industry had suffered the economic crisis on account of the impacts of global pandemic this year. Deok Eng Susule, manager of Sri Sisa Garment Factory, said,
Our factory has the garment orders from Japan and China. When COVID-19 takes place, all the factories were temporarily shut down in April. Then our factory has to resume operation on 2nd May with the government permission. But there is still no urgent order during May, so we have started the production of masks and surgical gowns. There was no urgent order, but we wanted to operate without stopping the factory since that time. Then the Embassy of Denmark supported us. They have bought masks and surgical gowns from us to donate to Bago region government as well as some hospitals. We have sold and donated these things. Now we have been producing the garments again since the beginning of June. Not a new order has entered. We are just producing the garments for the old orders. Our factory will be running until August. We don't know exactly if new orders will enter or what will happen after 3 months. The reoperation of export garment factories depends on their respective background buyer countries. We have heard that some orders from EU have been delayed. These factories also have to miss out their operation.
Deok Eng Susule also said that the garment factories for export market are still in manageable condition, but the factories which are depending only on the domestic markets are facing the more crisis. Europe is the most important market for Myanmar-made garments, according to the figures compiled by Smart Myanmar. Japan and Korea are the second and third largest trading partners for Myanmar's garment factories. Donin Tamo is a garment factory owner. She is running a garment factory for domestic market since 2000. Speaking to IMA Radio about the current situation of garment factories for domestic market, Donin Tamo said,
March, April, May ဆိုတာအရောင်းကောင်းဆုံးကာလပေါ့နော်အရောင်းကောင်းဆုံးကာလဖြစ်နေတဲ့အခါကျတော့အဲ့ကာလမှာအကုန်လုံးကိုဗစ်ဖြစ်သွားတဲ့အခါကျတော့လုံးဝမရောင်းလိုက်ရဘူးပေါ့နော်
In summer, March, April, and May, 3 months are the best-selling period for garment factory in the domestic market. The sales for domestic clothing brand are the big cold in winter, and we could only sell about 10,000 of garment per month in winter. We generally sell over 30,000 of garment in average. Many thousands of garments are just stored in the factory, and so the left amount of garments are sufficient and necessary in the market. Most garment factories won't need to operate their production for the more take outdoor. We have heard that some factories for domestic market are temporarily shutting down and the staff are being reduced. We also stopped our operation for domestic market, but we didn't reduce our staff and they are reassigned to our factory for export market.
Over 1.1 million workers are currently employed in garment, textile, footwear, accessories factories in Myanmar. Additional tens of thousands indirectly work in the industry through logistics and transport services. Research commissioned by CNA Foundation in 2017 calculated that the sector could employ over 1.5 million people by 2020. Currently, 15 factories have ceased operations permanently, while 5 others stopped operating temporarily since January. Others have kept the number of workers, so many garment workers are worried that their factories will be shut down. Ma Wenwei, a garment worker from Tracy's Garment Factory, said.
I have worked here for 4 years. During the stay-home period, when my work took a break for about 1 month, I went back to my hometown village. Our factory recommends me and other workers to get funding which contain 75,000 checks in cash and also prepare transportations for us to get back to our hometown. Around 30 workers who are from the same village as me are currently working here. I'm a bit worried that if our factory had to shut down, I would only have to go back to my hometown unemployed.
I am Pyothi Ritu. This is news reporting from Myanmar Radio.
That's a report on the impacts of the global pandemic on garment sector here in Myanmar. And now we're going to join by Mr. Xu Qingtuo, a senior journalist from China Media Group, to have a little discussion regarding the impact airlines in China are suffering from the new surge in COVID-19 cases. So, Mr. Xu, what impacts will this new surge in COVID-19 cases will bring to China?
Well, the impact on China, I would say, of course, people would think about the economic impact. If you look at the figure in April, in May, so industrial output is strong actually, but the problems, what is remaining weak is consumption, is how much people are spending on their daily lives, how much they purchase online, how much they frequently they go to the restaurant or etc. to consume. Because of the pandemic, obviously, and the people, some people at least, they are reluctant to go out and to consume for fear of further infections. So with this new outbreak, obviously, that would be put a dent on these consumption efforts in China, but mostly in Beijing, I would say, because the rest of the cities, the rest of the provinces in this country are already very open to the normal business for quite some time. But even in Beijing, I would say, for people mostly affected would be those who live in the high risk or medium risk neighborhood. Otherwise, things are largely normal. So what's different from this time around from, say, like back in February? Back in February, it's a lockdown mode. Most of the people will spend most of the time indoors and to purchase online, and probably no consumption out of their household, out of their apartment. But now, despite this surge of new cases, people are conducting normal daily lives, I would say. So they are continuing, going to work back and forth, driving around the city, to meet their friend. But at the same time, of course, there are some new restrictions. You want to avoid the big crowd. And also you have your masks back on. And if you go to some neighborhood or certain offices, probably there was a closer look at your temperature. So except for that, I would say the impact is not much. There is a psychological impact, I would say. People feel frustrated. We have been going through this for a long time. People are kind of tired of being locked down and being somehow being robbed of their freedom of movement.
Well, I agree with the freedom of movements being robbed or rather taken away. Now, my next question. A China Southern Airlines flight from Bangladesh to China's Guangzhou was suspended. Flight CZ392 will not run for 4 weeks starting from June 22nd after 17 passengers tested positive for the coronavirus. What kind of new rules regarding airline operations has been set?
Well, this is the outcome of this new set of rules introduced by the Chinese Aviation Authority at the beginning of this month. As we know, more and more countries are emerging out of this global pandemic, and they are trying very hard to reviving the economy. At the same time, they want to resume the normal lives, including flight operation from one city to another, from one country to another country. So is the Chinese government. So introduced the rule at the beginning of this month to basically resume flight operation, but also with some limits between China and other countries. For example, if you take a closer look at the rules, there are some incentives. If an airline has been keeping a clean record between, for example, Beijing and another city, that means there's no new infection for a certain period of time, and then the airline will be allowed to operate more flights between a Chinese port and other cities in another country. And then, of course, on the other side, if a flight bring into China a certain number of new infections, a certain number of cases, and then you will be punished, and then your flight will be suspended for a few days. So this is the disincentive. Basically, the rules, I think the government is asking the airline operators to use precautions, to work hard to prevent more infections. I would say the rule is a product of compromise, because for any country, on one hand, you want to resume operation, you want to recover the economy, you need to contain the spread of the virus. To operate more flights, some of the airline will be punished for violating the rule or for failing to contain the spread of the virus.
All right, Mr. Xu, thank you so much for joining us here on Myanmar Today. We've learned quite a lot already about the impacts that could bring to China with new surge in COVID-19 cases. We have another report coming up on online exhibitions. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. The painting market has been affected a great deal by COVID-19 ever since the exhibitions were prohibited. But the Art House in Myanmar has organized more online exhibitions. In this way, the galleries have transformed physical exhibitions into an online platform. Let's hear more from Pyotivitu.
It can be said that the golden era of painting in Myanmar just before the COVID-19 outbreak. In Yangon, every week showcase at least one exhibition. Some galleries have exhibition even thrice a week. More than 9 to 10 paintings were sold out in every exhibition, according to Mapyong Zali. Most of the artists can take advantage of the stay-home period by creating more artworks on their own. But some would like to have outdoor arts, so this pandemic caused a big problem in their profession. Painting market is affected by COVID-19 a lot, since the exhibitions are prohibited. There are no customers, and some artists find difficulties in their living. Mapyong Zali is the founder and CEO of Artist Mind Art House, which is operating art school, art clubs, galleries, and also art material shops. Speaking to Myanmar Radio about the impacts of global pandemic on Art House, she said,
COVID ဖြစ်သွားတဲ့အခါကျတော့ပကြီးပြပွဲအားလုံးကရက်လိုက်ရတယ်ပေါ့နော်ပကြီးပြခန်းကြီးအားလုံးကလည်းပိတ်ထားရတယ်
When the pandemic occurs, every gallery in Myanmar, of course including Artist My Art House, has been closed and we cannot arrange the exhibition. So we arranged to create an online exhibition at the beginning of May. We collected the soft file of the paintings from any artist who want to display their artworks at online exhibition. We also sold these paintings at the online exhibition, but the artists have to donate 100% of the profit from selling the paintings.
The exhibition includes 118 male and female artists for 85 paintings. 45 paintings are just sold out through this online exhibition. We have grossed over 8,400,000 just as fund. We can support 71 artists, 118,000 just per artist. So we can say that our online exhibition was successful. This way we have transformed the trend. Since then, we have seen that many galleries have organized the online exhibitions. 75 for 75th is an online art exhibition to commemorate the birthday anniversary of State Councillor Daw Aung San Suu Kyi. Wu Zhaoxuna, Assistant Director of National Museum Yangon, is also one of the organizers for the exhibition. He told Myanmar Radio about the first online exhibition organized by National Museum Yangon.
ပြပွဲမျိုးစားကြီးပေါ့နော်အထူးပြပွဲမျိုးစားကြီး၃မျိုးရှိပါတယ်ပထမအမျိုးစားတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဘာခေါ်လဲဆိုလို့ရှိရင် industry
Generally, we can classify three types of exhibition: industrial exhibition, regional exhibitions, and universal exhibition. We have been working on traditional physical exhibition. The online exhibition is a kind of universal exhibition, as everyone in the world can watch the exhibition without limiting show time. Even when the pandemic occurs, we have upgraded the physical exhibition into online to in conformity with universal system, but it needs advanced technology. In case the commemorative birthday art exhibition was arranged to display at National Museum of Myanmar in Yangon, so the exhibition has been transformed into online show due to COVID-19 outbreak.
Dr. Dokin Meiji, who is an artist, speaking to Myanmar Radio about her opinion on the pros and cons of the online exhibition, she said,
art gallery တွေမှာပြလေးရှိတယ်ပေါ့နော်အခုလိုပြရိုက်တွေမှာပြလေးရှိတယ်ဆိုတော့ဒီဟာကရက်အကန့်အသတ်ရှိတယ်ပေါ့နော်
In the past time, we exhibit our artwork at a gallery which had limit in show day space and also people could look in detail about the artwork. But during the COVID-19 outbreak, we have to introduce a new platform in exhibiting our artwork so that the audience can access and enjoy with a single click and also increase the audience reach even to worldwide.
ဒါဒီခေတ်နဲ့အညီပြောင်းလဲသွားတဲ့ဒီဟေးစီးချောင်းကိုအလိုက်တင်ပြောင်းလဲဖို့ပဲလိုတာပေါ့နော်
Now the galleries are getting along with the modernized methods of exhibiting and new marketplace for sales. Currently, every seller is keeping abreast with the trend to be in conformity with new normal condition and technology, so the art house does. I am Pyo Diritu. This is news reporting from Myanmar Radio.
And that's all we have for today's reports. And here are the international news on Myanmar Today. Russian President Vladimir Putin has not ruled out that he will run for a new presidential term if such a constitutional amendment is adopted. The TASS news agency quoted him as saying in an interview on Sunday, Russia will hold a nationwide vote from June 25th to July 1st on proposed changes to the constitution after the April 22nd vote was postponed due to COVID-19. Meanwhile, TASS reported the Russian leader cautioned officials against searching for a successor to him now, saying that they should rather focus on their work. The 67-year-old, who in January unveiled a major shake-up of Russian politics and a constitutional overhaul, is required by the constitution to step down in 2024 when his second sequential and fourth presidential term ends. Public support for Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's cabinet rose by 9 percentage points to 36% despite the recent arrest of his former justice minister on suspicion of vote buying, a poll by the Mainichi Shimbun showed on Sunday. The approval rating had fallen to 27% in the paper's previous survey, conducted soon after a senior Tokyo prosecutor who was seen close to the premier resigned in late May for gambling during Japan's coronavirus state of emergency. A drop in voter support below 30% is often seen as a danger sign. Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, Carrie Lam, has reiterated support for the city's new national security legislation designed to tackle secession, subversion of state power, terrorist activities, and collusion with foreign or external forces, and said she appreciates that advice from HKSAR government officials has been integrated into the law. The central authorities have enhanced the draft by absorbing opinions as much as possible, Lam said in an official statement on Saturday night, hours after China's top legislature reviewed the draft national security law, at which time details of its contents were unveiled for the first time. It calls for a coordination mechanism to be set up regarding the supervising and guiding of the work of the region in the maintenance of state security. In other news, Germany's rate of reproduction has risen to 1.79 according to the Robert Koch Institute. The country's daily number of cases rose by 687 in the past 24 hours, bringing the cumulative total to 189,822. A reproduction rate of 1.79 means that 100 people who contracted the virus infect 179 other people on average. A rate of less than 1 is needed to gradually contain the disease. The number, a sharp increase from 1.06 last Friday, is a setback for the European Union's most populous country, which has fared better in the pandemic than many European peers due mainly to early testing and social distancing measures. And Spanish Foreign Minister Arantxa González Laya announced on Sunday that visitors coming from the UK into Spain will not have to enter any form of the quarantine period. Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Heng Swee Keat said Saturday evening Singapore will remain committed to the free flow of goods, services, capital, data, ideas, and talent. He made the remarks while outlining 3 ways that the government will help businesses and workers thrive in the post-COVID-19 world. He said, Singapore must continue to invest in its infrastructure, even if it means delaying some projects, then that Singapore must continue to invest in research and innovation to sharpen its competitiveness. Heng announced that as Singapore finalizes its R&D plan for the next 5 years, 20 billion Singapore dollars will be set aside to support basic and applied research in high-impact areas such as health and biomedical sciences, climate change, and artificial intelligence. Well, that's all we have for now. Thanks for joining me on Myanmar Today. I'm Henry Zin. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you again. Goodbye.